I was standing in front of my daughter's house in the Queen Anne neighborhood of Seattle. It had been raining for 17 days straight, and today was no exception. My fingers were numb, not so much from the cold, but from what I was holding. A white cake box from the familiar bakery, $200, a strawberry chocolate cake, the kind I had bought for Piper every year since she was 7. I was 72 years old, 40 years a nurse, a lifetime as a widow, and in just a few minutes, I would realize that 45 years of motherhood could shatter with a single sentence. I rang the bell. The door opened. "Oh, it's you, Mom." That was all my daughter said. Not "Hi, Mom," not "Thank you for coming." Just a cold, simple, "Oh, it's you, Mom." As if I were some door-to-door seller she was reluctant to chase off. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I tried to smile, holding out the cake. 45 candles already planted. "I bought your favorite, just like when you were—" "Mom, I need to talk." Piper didn't even glance at the cake. We sat in the living room I had paid for, the house I had helped her buy. She sat across from me, and in her eyes there was something unfamiliar I had never seen before. Contempt. "Mom, I've been thinking a lot about this birthday. About what gift would really make me happy." I leaned forward, eager. "Of course, sweetheart. Anything. A trip, jewelry, or that new car you've been talking." "The best gift?" Piper cut me off, staring straight into my eyes. "Would be if you died." The world stopped. I don't mean that figuratively. Everything truly stopped. The rain outside the porch, the heartbeat in my chest, even time. "What?" I whispered. "You heard me," she replied, her voice cold. "I'm exhausted. The constant calls, the surprise visits. You're suffocating me. My life would be so much easier if you disappeared." The cake still sat on my lap. The little candles burned down, hot wax dripping onto my hands, and I couldn't move. I was 72 years old. I had been her mother for 45 years, and now my daughter had just spoken her wish, a wish for me to die. That's where my story begins. If you've ever believed that a mother's love is something unbreakable, stay with me on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next part. And before we move on to part 1, I want to ask you, if your own child said that to you, what would you do? I don't remember how I drove home that night. I don't remember how I climbed each step of the stairs. I only remember sitting on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m., my back against the cold tile, my eyes so dry there wasn't a single tear left. When the sun came up, I had made a decision. I would count everything, every penny, every sacrifice, every choice I had made over 45 years. I pulled the old boxes out of the closet, boxes of receipts I had kept, not because I distrusted my daughter, but because I was proud of what I had given her. But now, I counted for another reason. I needed to know the exact price of being told by my daughter that Mom should die. Let me take you back in time. Let me show you what those numbers really mean. 2002, the pneumonia Piper was 7. December, she had a severe pneumonia, the kind that keeps children hospitalized. I sat by her bed at Swedish Medical Center, holding her small hand, watching her struggle to breathe through the oxygen tube. The doctor came in with the prescription, a specialized antibiotic, $1,200. Insurance wouldn't cover it. I was 49, saving up for a down payment on a real house, $3,000 in savings. I could have asked for installments, could have negotiated. Instead, I went to the pawn shop on Pike Street, took off the only gold necklace my mother had left me. "I can give you $800 for this," the man said. "It's worth at least $1,005, I replied, trembling. "Not here." I took the $800, borrowed another $400 from the hospital credit fund at 18% interest. 6 months later, I was working triple shifts, 60 to 70 hours a week to pay it off. Once I was so tired, I fell asleep while drawing a patient's blood. But Piper got well. On the last night home, she was drowsy from the medicine, looked at me and softly asked, "Mommy, are you an angel?" I laughed, kissed her forehead. "No, sweetheart, just your mom." "Same thing," she murmured, then fell asleep in my arms. Same thing. 23 years later, she would tell me she wished I was dead. 2009. The prom dress. Piper was 16, talking about prom for months. We went together to the mall, a luxury department store I usually only walked past. She found a pink dress, slipped it on, and her face lit up. "Mom, this is it! This is the dress!" I looked at the price tag. $800. At the time, I was sleeping on a mattress with springs poking out. I had planned to replace it for 2 years, had $950 saved for a new one. "Can we buy it?" Piper asked, her eyes full of hope. "Try it on, sweetheart," I said. She spun in front of the fitting room mirror, looking so beautiful, so happy. I bought the dress. I lay on the broken mattress for 2 more years until my back hurt so badly I couldn't work full shifts. On prom night, Piper came down the stairs in the pink dress, threw her arms around me. "You're the best mom in the world." I believed it. Keeping score. Maybe as you listen, you're telling yourself, "I sacrificed for my child too." I understand that feeling. I once thought love could never be measured in numbers, but that night, flipping through each receipt, I realized everything has a price, and the price of sacrifice isn't just money, it's every time you push yourself aside, 2012 to 2016. College. 4 years of college became 7. Piper switched majors 3 times: biology, art history, marketing, then communications. Each time she called crying, "Mom, I hate this major," I'd say, "It's okay, sweetheart. Take your time to figure it out." Each semester $6,000, sometimes more. I took a second mortgage on the small house I had finally managed to buy, $42,000 in total, for a degree she never used. I didn't complain. Not once. I thought I was investing in her future. But in truth, I was investing so my own future would be empty. 2017. The wedding. "Mom, I know it's a lot of money, but this is my wedding. I only get $135,000. Venue overlooking Elliott Bay. Peonies instead of roses, because roses are too common. A photographer, $5,000 for 8 hours. Menu with Chilean sea bass at $85 a plate. Mark's parents didn't contribute a penny. Mark's mother even said, "We don't believe in spoiling our kids. They should pay their own way." I paid for everything. I wore a discounted dress I had bought 6 years earlier, sat alone at a table for most of the reception, watching Mark's large family laugh, talk, and dance, calculating how many more years I'd have to work to rebuild my retirement fund. But Piper was radiant. That was what mattered, right? 2019. The house. "Mom, we found it. Our dream house in Queen Anne. 3 bedrooms. A backyard for the children they wanted. The bank says we need 20% down and a co-signer," Mark explained. "Our credit isn't great." $150,000. My entire retirement account. 40 years of nursing, every extra shift, every holiday. I was 66, planning to retire the next year. "Don't worry," I heard myself say. "I'll handle it." I kept working until 69. My knees gave out. Blood pressure rose. Ate instant noodles 3 times a week to help them pay property taxes when Mark got laid off the first time. But they had their dream house. 2020 to 2024, the twins. Emma and Liam were born when I was 67. I was in the delivery room, held them before anyone but Piper. "Mom," Piper said, exhausted but happy, "you'll help us take care of them, right?" "I don't know if I can do it." "Of course," I said. "I'm here." Always. For 5 years, I was free childcare, every Friday night, every Saturday. Every time Piper texted, "Emergency, can you pick them up?" At 6 p.m., I canceled my book club, canceled coffee with Nora, canceled doctor appointments, rescheduled twice. The twins became my whole life. I taught Emma to tie her shoes, helped Liam with math, made grilled cheese sandwiches, and I never counted a penny, never asked for anything in return. Because that's what grandmothers do, right? 2024, when Mark lost his job again. March 2024, Mark was laid off for the third time in 6 years. Piper called crying, "Mom, I don't know what to do. The mortgage is $3,000 a month. Severance only lasts 2 months. I'll handle it," I said. For 8 months, I paid their mortgage. $16,000 taken from my pension, the money I needed for rent, medicine, food for myself. I started eating rice and beans, stopped my cholesterol medication because I couldn't afford it, let my apartment get so cold that winter I could see my breath inside. But I paid their mortgage. And do you know what Piper said when I made the final payment? "Thanks, Mom. Oh, can you watch the kids tomorrow? Mark has an interview and I have a spa appointment. I haven't had time for myself in so long I had a doctor's appointment that day. The third time I'd rescheduled because of their emergencies. I canceled again." "Of course, sweetheart," I said. The night I counted everything. So there I was, 3 a.m., after my daughter wished me dead, with 45 years of receipts spread across the kitchen table. The calculator glowed in the dark. Raising Piper from birth to 18, $198,000. College, $42,000. Wedding, $35,000. House down payment, $150,000. 8 months of mortgage payments, $16,000. Braces for the twins, $4,000. Gifts, food, emergencies, $15,000. Total, $460,000. If I had invested that money prudently, I'd have over $600,000 now. I could live anywhere, do anything. Instead, I live in a 400-square-foot apartment that smells of my neighbor's curry every night. I wear a 12-year-old winter coat. I buy day-old bread at the grocery store. And my daughter, the child I bore, raised, taught, funded, wishes I was dead. The phone buzzed. A text from Piper. "Can you watch the kids Friday? Mark and I need a night for just the two of us." I stared at the phone, didn't answer, put it down. Something had changed. The pain was still there, but beneath it, something else was growing. Something cold, something clear. "No more," I said. That night felt like dying. My chest hurt. It really hurt. I wondered if this was what a heart attack felt like. Maybe I should give Piper what she wanted right now. I lay on the bathroom floor, clutching my chest, reached for the phone to dial 911, then stopped. "No," I whispered. "Not yet." Not like this. I sat with my back against the cold tile, listened to the Seattle rain beat against the window, the sparse cars on the street at midnight, my own breathing slowing down. I waited for something to shatter, but what shattered wasn't my body. It was the spell. For 45 years, I had been bound by a belief that a good mother must sacrifice everything, that love means giving until there's nothing left, that if my child wasn't happy, it was my fault. When dawn slipped through the window frame, I looked at myself in the mirror. 72 years old, silver hair, wrinkles deeper than I remembered, dark circles under my eyes, the face of someone who had lived an entire life for other people. And for the first time, I wondered, what if I had lived for myself? The feeling was both terrifying and exhilarating. I stood up, washed my face, looked in the mirror again. "Who is the person you're going to become?" I asked my reflection. The reflection didn't answer, but after decades, I wanted to know. The next morning, I got up at 5, not because I slept well, I didn't sleep, but because something in me had changed. I dressed properly. The navy blazer I'd bought for Piper's wedding and only worn twice. Put on careful makeup, combed my hair, took one last look at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed different, older, harder, more decisive. At 9 o'clock, I stood in front of First Hill Credit Union. My heart was pounding, my palms were sweaty, but I pushed the door open and walked in. Mr. Darwin, the branch manager, looked up from his desk. We'd known each other 15 years. He'd helped me with my first mortgage. He was there when I signed the papers for Piper's house. "Juliana?" He jumped to his feet, worried. "Are you all right?" I tried to smile and couldn't. "I need to close a joint account, number 45,872,891. His face changed. He understood immediately that this was serious. "The account with your daughter?" "Yes." He checked the computer, frowned. "That account has $20,000 left. Are you sure you want? Transfer it all to my personal account." Today, my voice sounded strange in my own ears, cold, steady, not trembling. Mr. Darwin looked at me for a long time. He knew I was someone who always said yes, always helped, never put myself first. "Juliana," he said gently, "whatever's happening, perhaps you should take a bit more time to—" "I've taken 45 years, I cut in. I looked him straight in the eyes. "I want to close the account." Something in the way I spoke kept him from arguing further. He nodded, typed. "Sign here." He handed me a stack of papers. "And your daughter will be notified of the account closure." "Good." I signed. My hand didn't shake this time. Stepping out of the bank, I felt lighter, not because of the $20,000 transferred. That money was mine to begin with, but because I had said no for the first time in my life. I stood on the sidewalk. Seattle's rain fell in a light drizzle. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The next step was harder. Ms. Ana Romero's office was in a building near downtown. I waited 20 minutes, watched young couples come and go with dreams of their first home. I remembered I had once been like that. 53 years old, finally buying a small house of my own. Then I mortgaged it. Twice, all because of Piper. "Mrs. Reed?" A woman in her 40s, neatly suited, came out. "I'm Ana Romero. Please come in." Her office was clean and orderly. Diplomas on the wall, a family photo, 2 kids and a husband beaming. "It's been a while since you dropped by," she smiled. "What can I do for you today?" "The mortgage I co-signed," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "For 2847 West 15th Street. She typed, opened the file. Her expression shifted slightly as she read. "Your daughter's house." "Yes." She scrolled down. "The account is currently 2 months delinquent." I wasn't surprised, but hearing it officially still stung. "I need to understand my rights," I said, "as the co-signer." Her face became very professional. "You have substantial rights. You are equally responsible with the primary borrower. That means in the event they cannot pay, you have the right to request a transfer or compel a sale to recover the loan." "What counts as cannot pay?" 3 late payments, or evidence of financial instability that threatens future installments. She paused. "I see you covered 8 consecutive months last year, and now there are 2 more late payments. That's a clear pattern," I swallowed. "If I want to exercise my rights, what's the process?" She pushed a thick file toward me. "You file a notice of intent by the co-signer. With the history of delinquencies and your financial support, the bank will likely support a transfer of the asset or a compelled sale." I opened the folder, papers dense with legal terms. My vision swam. That was my daughter's house, where my grandchildren were growing up, the living room where Emma studied, the backyard where Liam kicked a ball. But it was also $150,000 of mine, my retirement money, the future I had given up. "This will be Very heavy, Ms. Romero said softly. On the family side. I looked up. On the family side, everything is already heavy. Understanding flashed in her eyes. She nodded. I want copies of everything, I said, standing up. The original contract, payment history, delinquency notices. I'll have them prepared before the end of the day. I was at the door when she called after me. Mrs. Reed? I turned back. I've seen cases like this. Parents who sacrifice everything. She paused a beat. Sometimes the kindest thing is to let them feel the full weight of their own choices. I nodded slightly, then left. Out in the hallway, I had to stop, leaned against the wall, breathed deeply. My heart pounded like a drum, my hands shook. What had I just done? Then I remembered Piper's face, the ice-cold words. The best gift would be if you died. I straightened, walked out of the building. If you're listening this far and your heart feels heavy, so does mine. But remember, every decision I make today isn't about revenge. I am simply returning responsibility to its rightful owner, and for the first time, I'm trying to put my own name at the top of the list to protect. Harold's office was in Pioneer Square, an old building, high ceilings, creaky wooden floors. He and my husband had been friends since college. Harold drew up our will 30 years ago. He was at John's funeral. He's 70 now. Snow-white hair, but his back is still straight. When he saw me come in, he stood and hugged me. Juliana, he smiled warmly. It's been too long. How are you? He let go, looked closely at my face. The smile faded. What happened? I sat down in the leather chair across from him. In 10 minutes, I told him everything. The birthday, the cake, the sentence, the $460,000. Harold listened, didn't interrupt. His face grew more serious by the moment. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. Then he stood and poured 2 whiskeys, even though it was only 2 in the afternoon. He handed me a glass. Drink. You need it. The liquor burned my throat, but it was good. God, Jules, he said, sitting back down. Did your daughter really say that? I nodded. I thought I had no tears left. He pondered a moment, staring into the glass, then looked up. What do you want me to do? My will, I said, my voice steady now. Anything designated for Piper needs to be removed. Whom do you want to leave it to? Seattle Children's Hospital Foundation, the orphan fund. I paused. And a trust for Emma and Liam. Piper cannot touch it until they're 25, Harold took notes. Life insurance? Change that too. Transfer the beneficiary to the fund. And the house? I want to exercise the co-signer's rights. Recover what I put in. Harold set his pen down, looked at me very seriously. Juliana, this is nuclear. Do you understand? This will destroy any chance of reconciliation with Piper. The silence stretched. I looked him straight in the eyes. She destroyed that already, I said softly but clearly, when she wished me dead. Harold's gaze changed. He nodded. Then let's do it right. For the next 2 hours, we worked nonstop. Harold handed over documents. I read line by line, a new will, beneficiary changes, revocation of power of attorney, new health care directive. $100,000 in life insurance, Harold said. All to Children's Hospital. I signed. Savings and investments. Currently about $85,000. Transfer to the fund. I signed. Your apartment, if sold, estimated $95,000 after taxes. Also to the fund. I signed. The trust for Emma and Liam. Any amount recovered from the house will be locked until they turn 25. Piper has no access. I signed. With each signature, I felt lighter, as if setting down the boulders I'd carried on my back for decades. There's one more matter, Harold said as we neared the end. What is it? Piper will fight this. She may allege undue influence or diminished capacity. She might even try to have you declared incompetent. She can do that? She can try. Which is why I'm documenting everything Harold pointed to a recorder on the desk. Recording the conversation. Requesting your doctor's confirmation of capacity. We're going to make this ironclad. He switched on the recorder. For the record, he said clearly, Juliana, are you of sound mind today? Yes. Are you being coerced or unduly influenced? No. Do you fully understand the implications of the changes we're making? I looked straight at the device. Yes, my daughter wished me dead. I am simply honoring that wish by removing myself from her life, financially and in every respect. These changes reflect my true intentions and my assessment of who is deserving of my legacy. Harold turned off the recorder. That's strong enough. He paused. What do you plan to do now? I smiled faintly. My first real smile in days. Something I should have done 40 years ago. What's that? Live for myself. I stood, shook Harold's hand. His hand was warm and firm. Thank you, Harold. For everything. For not judging me. Jules, he said gently, John would be proud of you. He always wanted you to be happier. I froze. John, my husband, the kind man who died of cancer 10 years ago. If he were alive, what would he say? I think he would say, do it, Jules. It's your turn. I stepped out of Harold's building as Seattle slipped into dusk, the sky a dark gray. The rain had stopped. I stood on the sidewalk, watched people hurry home to their families, home to their lives. As for me, I had just cut the last umbilical cord tying me to my daughter, and strangely, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I walked down the wet streets with no destination, just walked, just felt, past Pike Place Market. Vendors were packing up. The air carried faint scents of fresh fish and flowers. I went up to Cary Park, stood at the viewpoint, looked down at the city, the Space Needle, Elliott Bay, lights flickering on as the sky darkened. This is the city I've lived in all my life, 72 years. Every street is a memory. Every corner is a story. But for the first time, I wondered, what about other streets, other cities, other lives? I took out my phone, typed a search. Living abroad at 72. Thousands of results. Older people starting over. Stories of courage. Stories of rebirth. I clicked on one article. Iceland. Paradise for retirees. The images opened. Mountains, waterfalls, a wild coastline, a small, faraway country, a place where no one knows my name, where I could be anyone. I sat on a wet bench, didn't mind my coat, and for the first time in decades, I dreamed, no longer dreaming about what I could give my daughter, but dreaming about what I could give myself. The phone buzzed, a text from Piper. Mom, where are you? I need to talk about Friday. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I deleted the message, and I began planning a one-way trip to Reykjavík. I got home at 8 that evening. The apartment was dark and cold. I didn't turn on the light right away. I just stood in the doorway for a moment, looking into the space I had called home for 15 years. How many nights had I sat on that old sofa worrying about Piper? How many times had I lost sleep over her bills, her problems, her dreams? And now what? I turned on the light, opened the laptop, sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a resolve. I would write Piper a letter, not to apologize, not to explain, but a letter to teach. My daughter needed to learn a lesson, and for the last time, I would be the one to teach it. I started typing at 9 p.m. Dear Piper. My fingers froze on the keys. Dear. Was there any dear left? I deleted it. Rewrote. Piper. Better. Neutral. No more false warmth. You asked me to disappear from your life as a birthday gift. I have decided to grant your wish. I paused, took a deep breath. The tears started to fall, but I didn't wipe them away. I let them drip onto the keyboard. I needed to feel the pain, needed to remember why I was doing this. When you read this letter, I will already be far away. I'm beginning the life I should have lived years ago, instead of sacrificing everything for you. I typed and typed and typed. I listed every sum, not out of greed, but because you needed to see. You needed to understand what you had lost. In 2002, $1,200 for your antibiotic. I sold Grandma's gold necklace. In 2009, $800 for the prom dress. I worked every weekend for 4 months. I slept on a broken mattress for 2 more years, from 2012 to 2016. $42,000 for college. You changed majors 3 times. I took a second mortgage. In 2017, $35,000 for your wedding. I wore a 6-year-old dress. I ate instant noodles for a week to save money. In 2019, $150,000 for your house down payment. My entire retirement. I worked 4 more years though my knees hurt and my blood pressure was high. From 2020 to 2024, 5 years of free child care, 260 weeks, approximately 1,040 hours. I canceled 47 doctor's appointments, 23 coffees with friends, 15 birthdays and celebrations I wanted to attend. In 2024, $16,000 to cover the mortgage when Mark was unemployed. I stopped taking my cholesterol medication. I ate rice and beans. I didn't turn on the heat. Total, $460,000. I stopped, looked at the number on the screen. Nearly $500,000. If I had that money now, I wouldn't worry about retirement. I wouldn't have to count every penny at the grocery store. I wouldn't have to choose between medicine and rent. But more important than money is time. Time I will never get back. I kept writing. But this isn't about money, Piper. It's about how you treated me, as if I were a service, not a person. As if my love were a debt you're entitled to collect, not a gift I chose to give. You say I suffocate you. But the truth is, I'm the one suffocating, under endless expectations, under contempt and ingratitude. My fingers moved faster, 50 years compressed and bursting out. Do you want to know what the worst part is not? It's not what you said. It's how you said it. Cold, calm, as if wishing me dead were reasonable. I've thought a lot about that sentence, and I realize you don't truly wish I were dead. You wish I would disappear, but still be ready when you need money, when you need child care, when you need someone to rescue you from the consequences of bad decisions. So I'll give you what you want. I will disappear. Completely. I paused, wiped my tears with the back of my hand. The coffee had gone cold. Outside the window, Seattle was swallowed by darkness. It was midnight, but I wasn't done. Along with this letter, you will find the following documents. 1. Confirmation of the closure of the joint account. The $20,000 has been transferred back to my account. 2. A notice from attorney Harold Stein about changes to my will. Everything once designated for you now goes to the Seattle Children's Hospital Foundation and a trust for Emma and Liam, a trust you cannot access until they are 25. 3. The change of beneficiary for the $100,000 life insurance policy. It no longer belongs to you. 4. A notice from the mortgage bank. As co-signer, I have the right to reclaim my investment when the primary borrower cannot make payments. I know Mark just lost his job for the 3rd time. I know the payments are late. I will exercise my rights. I stopped after that paragraph, my heart pounding. This was the decisive blow, the house, the children's nest, but also my $150,000, the future I had relinquished. And if I didn't do this, if I let Piper evade consequences, she would never learn. I typed on, "You'll think I'm punishing you." I'm not, Piper. I'm freeing myself. I'm giving you a chance to grow up, something I should have done years ago. For 45 years, I taught you that actions had no consequences, that you could treat me badly and I'd still be there, that my love was so unconditional you could abuse it. I was wrong. And now I'm making it right. You said life would be easier without me. Let's see. From now on, the following changes apply. No more $500 a month for unexpected expenses. No more mortgage payments when Mark is unemployed. No more free childcare every week. No more school supplies for the kids. No more calling a plumber, changing tires, or lending money when your account is overdrawn. No more safety net if you get sick, lose your job, or make poor financial decisions. You wanted independence. Here it is. I'm giving it to you. I leaned back, looked at the screen. 2 a.m. I had written 12 pages, but I still wasn't done. I wrote about Emma and Liam, the hardest part. I know you'll tell the kids I abandoned them. Tell the truth. I love them more than anything. I'm not leaving because of them. I'm leaving because I cannot stay beside someone who has destroyed me. When they're old enough to understand, show them this letter, so they know their grandmother tried, that she loved their mother with all her heart, and that sometimes loving yourself matters as much as loving your family. I'm leaving them a trust. $150,000 if I recover it from the house, plus all my remaining savings. When they're 25, the money is theirs. For college, a home, or whatever they need. You are not to touch a single cent. This is my legacy to the children, not to you. The tears fell so hard I had to stop to wipe them away. I thought of Emma and Liam, their small faces, their hugs, their laughter. It all made me want to turn back. But I couldn't. I couldn't keep living in a toxic environment just because I loved my grandchildren. That wouldn't be fair to them, or to me. I wrote the final paragraph at 4 a.m. The sky turned from black to gray. Piper, I hope one day you'll understand that I'm not abandoning you. I'm saving myself. And in a way, I'm saving you too. If I stay, you'll never learn to stand on your own feet. You'll never know how strong you are. You'll remain a dependent child, and I'll remain the perpetual sacrificer. We both deserve more than that. Your life will be harder now. I won't lie. You'll have to make tough choices. Live within your means. Learn to say no to things you can't afford. But you'll also learn how to be proud of what you accomplish on your own, not with my money. Maybe someday you'll look back and thank me. I paused, my fingers hovering over the keys. How should I end this? Love, Mom, no longer fit. Your mother was too dry. In the end, I wrote, I have loved you more than anything for 45 years. Now it's time I learn to love myself. Goodbye, Piper. Juliana Reed. I hit save. 23 pages, 11,000 words, 45 years of life in one file. I printed it, held the still warm pages, read from start to finish. Every word was true, every sentence the pain I had endured, every paragraph a piece of my soul Piper had trampled. But this was also liberation. I folded them carefully, slipped them into a large white envelope, wrote on it, P-I-P-E-R, done. Now all I needed was to plan my disappearance. At 8 a.m., I knocked on the apartment next door. Nora Kim, 68, a widow like me, my best friend for the past 5 years, opened the door in a bathrobe, hair still messy. Jules? She looked at my face. Oh God, you didn't sleep? I need to talk to you, I said. Something important. 10 minutes later, we were at Nora's kitchen table with coffee and croissants. I told her everything, from beginning to end, the birthday, the letter, the legal papers, and my plan. Iceland? Nora's eyes widened. You're going to Iceland? I need to go far, I said. Far enough that Piper can't find me. Far enough that I can start over. But you don't know anyone there. You don't speak Icelandic. You're 72 and if I don't do it now, I never will. I took Nora's hand. I'm dying in that apartment. Dying day by day under the weight of Piper's expectations. Nora was quiet for a moment, looked into her cup, then looked up. What do you need me to do? I exhaled in relief. I need you to deliver the letter. But not right away. I need time to leave first. When? I fly on Tuesday. Wait until Wednesday morning, then go to Piper's house. Say you're worried because I haven't answered my phone, that you used the spare key and found the apartment empty. Nora nodded slowly. You want her to think you've disappeared. I am disappearing. From her life, from Seattle. From all of this, I handed Nora the envelope. Here's the letter. And this, I passed her another bundle, is all the legal paperwork. The new will, account closure, mortgage notice. Nora held them as if cradling a bomb. God, Jules, this is going to destroy her. No, I said softly. She destroyed this relationship herself. I'm just making it official. If you're gasping, pause a beat with me. The letter is written. The plan is in motion. From here on, every action has clear consequences. For Piper, for me, for Emma and Liam. But sometimes, to save a house, you have to put out the fire at the source. The next 2 days were a whirlwind. Saturday, I went to the travel store and bought 2 large suitcases. I stood in the middle of the apartment, looking at the closet, the bookshelf, the souvenirs of a lifetime. What do you take when you're about to leave your entire life behind? Clothes. I chose practical things, thick sweaters, a waterproof coat, good boots. Iceland is cold, windy. The weather changes by the second. Documents, passport, birth certificate, nursing license, marriage certificate. I hesitated, then took them. A beautiful part of the past. Photos. A box of 45 years. Hundreds of them. Piper as a child. Piper at school. Piper's wedding. Emma and Liam. I sat on the floor, looked through each one, cried, remembered, hurt. In the end, I chose 3. Piper at 7, hugging me, knees scraped from a bike fall. I'm bandaging the wound, she's smiling. John and me on our wedding day. Young, happy, unaware of what was coming. Emma and Liam at 6 months. I'm holding them both. They're asleep on my shoulders. Only 3. The rest I left in the box. Books. I have hundreds. But luggage space is limited. I chose 4. John's favorite novel. 1 book about Iceland. A blank journal to write the new life. A poetry collection my mother used to read to me. Jewelry. I don't have much left. I sold most of it for Piper. I still have my wedding ring. I took it off after John died, but never threw it away. I put it back on. It still fit. After 10 years. You'd understand, wouldn't you? I whispered to the ring, to John, to the memory. You'd say I'm doing the right thing, wouldn't you? No answer. Just the apartment's silence. But I felt John would agree. He always wanted me to be happy. Always said, Jules, you have to live more for yourself. Now, at last, I was doing it. Sunday, I walked across Seattle, one last time. I started at Swedish Medical Center, stood outside looking at the building where I spent 40 years. I could see the 4th floor, where I used to work, the familiar windows, how many patients I had cared for, how many people I had helped heal, how many night shifts, how many holidays, how many moments I had given away. Thank you, I whispered to the building, for everything. Pike Place Market. I bought sunflowers, my favorite, bought coffee at the shop I'd visited for 10 years. The barista said, "See you Monday, Juliana." I smiled but didn't answer. There would be no Monday. Cary Park. I sat at the viewpoint, looked at the city one last time. The Space Needle, Mount Rainier in the distance. The streets I knew by heart. 72 years here. A lifetime. Goodbye, I said to the city. And strangely, I wasn't sad. I felt ready. Sunday evening, the phone buzzed. Piper. I looked at the screen. Let it ring. Then it stopped. A voice message. I put it on speaker. Mom, it's me. Why aren't you picking up? I need you to watch the kids Friday night. You remember that work dinner I mentioned last month? Call me back, A-Beat. And hey, sorry if I said too much on the birthday. You know how I am when I'm stressed. Love you. Call me back, sorry if I said too much. Not, I'm sorry for wishing you dead. Just sorry if I said too much, as if she had merely been a little rude. I deleted the message, blocked Piper's number, blocked Mark's too, turned off the phone. Sunday night, the apartment was nearly empty. 2 suitcases by the door, my things draped in white sheets. I had given Nora the keys and told her to take whatever she wanted. The rest would be donated to charity. I sat on the floor, no chairs left to sit on, my back against the wall, looking out the window. The lights at Pike Place Market sparkled. Seattle rain, of course it was still raining. Cars passed. People were still living their lives. Tomorrow, I would start living mine. I didn't sleep. I just waited for dawn, waited for the wave of regret to hit. But it didn't come. Instead, came hope. For the first time in decades. At 5 a.m., Monday, Nora knocked, bringing coffee and pastries. Ready? She asked softly. I looked around the apartment one last time. 400 square feet I called home, where I had cried thousands of nights, where I had worried, sacrificed, slowly lost myself. Do you regret anything? Nora asked. I thought for a long time, then answered honestly. Only that I didn't do this sooner. We carried the suitcases down. A taxi was waiting. I'd booked it the night before. The driver loaded the bags into the trunk. I turned to look at the building, the window of the old apartment. Nora stood there, waving, tears streaming. Send me a postcard from Iceland, she called. Show me you're living for real, not just surviving. I nodded, not sure I could still speak. I got in the car. The driver looked at me in the mirror. Where to, ma'am? The airport, I said. 2 words that sounded like they were opening up an entire new life. The car pulled away. I didn't look back, didn't look at the apartment, didn't look at Nora, didn't look at Seattle. I only looked forward, toward freedom, toward Iceland, toward the life I should have had 50 years ago. 72 years old, flying solo for the first time, choosing myself for the first time, disappearing for the first time, and for the first time, truly living. The plane took off at 7 in the morning. Iceland Air Flight 671. I sat by the window, watching Seattle shrink below. The buildings, the streets, Pike Place Market, Elliott Bay, all turning into tiny blocks and then sinking into the clouds. 72 years of life were leaving me at 500 miles an hour. My heart pounded. My hands gripped the armrest. A part of me wanted to scream, "Stop! Land!" I was wrong, but I didn't. I just breathed. In, out, in, out. The woman next to me, about 50, reading a novel, glanced at me. First time in Iceland? First time going anywhere, I admitted. Alone. She smiled warmly. Me too. My husband died last year. I decided if I don't go now, I never will. I'm very sorry, I said. Don't be. She looked out the window. He'd want me to go. To live. Not just survive. She turned back. And you? Why Iceland? I was silent for a beat. Then, because strangers are sometimes the easiest to confide in, I said, I'm escaping. From a life I lived wrong. She nodded, as if that made perfect sense. 72 is never too late to start over. I hope so, I answered softly. 3 hours later, I turned my phone on airplane mode to rewatch old messages. I knew I shouldn't, but I did. There was a video Emma had sent 2 weeks ago that I hadn't opened. I hit play. Her face filled the screen. 12 years old, big eyes, a smile missing a front tooth. "Grandma, look, I'm learning at school." She sat at the piano, a simple piece, still clumsy but full of pride. When she finished, she turned back. "Next week when you come, I'll play it for you, okay? I love you." The video ended. I sat still, tears running down my cheeks, trying not to sob in a crowded cabin. Next week. Emma had expected me to come, and I was flying to Iceland. "I'm sorry, Emma, I can't stay, not even for you. But is it fair for you to bear the consequences of what your mother did?" I closed my eyes and tried to nap, but all I could see were Emma and Liam's faces, 2 innocent children in the middle of all this. I wasn't there, but later Nora told me. Let me tell you. 9 in the morning, Nora took the envelope and the packet of documents to Piper's house. Her heart was pounding. She had rehearsed all night. She rang the bell. Piper opened the door in pajamas, hair messy, looking tired. "Mrs. Kim?" "What is it?" "May we talk inside?" "About your mother?" Piper's face went a shade paler. "Mom? Is she sick?" They sat in the living room I had paid for. Nora began the most important performance of her life. "When did you last speak to your mother?" "I'm not sure. A few days ago?" "Why?" "Since Monday, your mother hasn't opened the door. Newspapers are piling up on the porch. This morning I used the spare key and—" Nora deliberately paused a beat. "Your mother has disappeared." "What do you mean, disappeared?" Piper jumped up, her voice rising. "The apartment is half empty." "Most of the clothes are gone. And your mother left this." Nora handed her the envelope. "For you." Piper snatched it. "Nonsense! Mom didn't—" She ripped it open. Papers scattered. She opened the letter. Nora said she watched Piper's color drain. Her hands tremble. Her eyes go wide as she read. 1 minute, 2, 5. "No," Piper whispered. "No, no, 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 no." She flipped through each document. Bank confirmation. Joint account closed. Attorney Harold Stein's letter. New will notice from the mortgage company. Change of life insurance beneficiary. "Where is she?" Piper turned to Nora, eyes frantic. "Where did she go?" "I don't know." The letter doesn't say Piper started calling, then called again and again. "Mom, call me back right now. You can't—" Her voice broke. "You can't do this." Mark ran down from upstairs. "What's going on?" "Mom left!" Piper screamed. "She closed the account. She wants the house. She changed the will." She threw the papers at him. "She even changed the insurance." Mark skimmed fast, face blanching. "God! Can Mom even do that?" Piper stammered. Nora stood. "I should go." Piper whipped around. "You knew about this?" "I knew your mother was in pain. I knew the words you said hurt her for real." "The words I said—" Piper laughed sharply, incredulous. "Mom's overreacting. She's punishing me because I have boundaries." "Boundaries?" Nora looked straight at her. "Is that what you call it?" A pause. "Piper, exactly what did you say to your mother on her birthday?" Silence. Piper avoided her eyes. "That's between my mother and me. Now you know how much between the 2 of you costs." Nora walked to the door, then stopped. "Your mother is 72, worked herself to the bone to give you everything. And you—" "I didn't ask her to do it all!" Piper screamed, desperation in her voice. "No, you just took, again and again, until nothing was left of her except the parts useful to you." The door closed with a decisive click. If you're listening this far and your heart is racing like mine was then, hold one beat. From this moment, every call, every tear, every piece of paper has weight. The question is, Who does that weight fall on, and who finally learns to stand on their own? In the next 3 hours, Piper called me 37 times. At that moment, my phone was off, lying at the bottom of my bag in the overhead bin on the flight to Reykjavík. Later, when I turned it on, I listened to them all. Let me recount them in order. Message 1, 10:15 a.m. Mom, it's me. I just saw Mrs. Kim. What is this? I don't understand. Call me right now. Tone, annoyed, not yet believing this is real. Message 5, 10:47 a.m. Mom! Why aren't you answering? We're freaking out. I read the letter. You're not serious, right? About the house? About the will? You can't do that. Call me. Tone, panicked, beginning to realize it's real. Message 10, 11:23 a.m. Mom, please. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I was stressed. I blurted it out. Please call me. Please. Tone, crying, softening. Message 15, 12:01 p.m. Fine. If you don't call, we're going to the police. You're 72. You could be in danger. We'll file a missing person report. Tone, threatening, trying to regain control. Message 20, 1:34 p.m. The police said they can't do anything. You left a letter, so it's voluntary. But Mom, do you understand? We could lose the house. The bank called. You closed the joint account. How do we handle emergencies? You can't just... Tone, desperate. Note, worried about money, not my health. Message 25, 3:12 p.m. The kids are asking about you. Emma has a performance tomorrow. She's crying because you promised you'd come. What am I supposed to say? That Grandma vanished because I misspoke? That's not fair to them. Tone, emotional manipulation, using the kids to guilt me. Message 30, 4:45 p.m. Your lawyer called. He said everything's legal. The will, the house, everything. You were fully competent when you signed. We have no grounds to contest. Mom, are you really going to destroy us like this? After everything? Tone, disbelief turning to irritation. Message 37, 6:20 p.m. All right. You know what? You're right. My life will be easier without you. At least I won't have to deal with this crazy emotional stuff. You want to disappear? Great. Disappear. We'll be fine. We've always been fine. You're not as necessary as you think. Tone, angry, defensive, pain turning into attack. That was the last message. When I finished all 37 messages, I was sitting in an airport hotel lounge in Reykjavík. A part of me wanted to call back, "Sweetheart, I'm sorry. I'll come home. We'll fix it." But then I replayed message 37. You're not as necessary as you think. And I understood. Piper still hadn't realized. She thought this was about me wanting to feel needed, about ego, about control. She didn't understand this was about how she had destroyed me. I deleted all the messages, blocked the number, for good this time. Then I went to sleep in my new country. The hotel room was small, the bed hard, the wind outside, Icelandic wind, wild, cold, unlike any sound I'd ever heard. I lay in the dark, staring at a strange ceiling, in a strange country, in a strange life. I waited for guilt to flood in. It came, of course. Emma, Liam, their small faces, the piano recital I would miss tomorrow. But beside the guilt was something else. Release. For the first time in 45 years, no one knew where I was. No one was calling emergency. No one was waiting for me to rescue them. I was alone, completely, terrifying and liberating. I thought of John. If he could see me now, what would he say? I believe he'd smile, pull me into his arms and whisper, "Finally, Jules. Finally, you're living." The last tears that night weren't for sadness. They were for relief, for hope, for the fragile, new, frightening feeling that maybe my life wasn't over. Maybe it had just begun. I woke to a strange light seeping through the curtains. Not like Seattle light. This light was cold, clear, resolute. For a second, I was confused. Where was I? Then I remembered. Iceland. I was in Iceland. I had done it. Really done it. Really.
I stepped to the window. Outside, the parking lot, the road leading into the capital, mountains in the distance, their peaks snow-tipped. The sky opened in a way Seattle's rain and clouds rarely allowed. The phone buzzed. An email from Einar Sigurdsson, the financial advisor the agency had scheduled. Mrs. Reed, welcome to Iceland. We have an appointment at 2 p.m. today. I'll help you review options for staying long-term. Looking forward to meeting you. Staying long-term. Those words scared me and made me flutter with excitement at the same time. I showered, put on jeans, a thick sweater, boots, looked in the mirror. The woman looking back was no longer the old Juliana, the exploited mother, the exhausted caregiver, the woman who'd lost herself. She was someone new, someone I was beginning to get to know. "Hello," I whispered to my reflection. "I'm Juliana. I'm 72, and I'm just getting started." For the first time in weeks, I smiled, and that smile was real. I stepped out of the hotel at 9 in the morning. The Icelandic wind slapped my face, cold, strong, brutal. I staggered, pulling my coat tight. No one told me about the wind. I had read about Iceland, seen the photos, but no picture prepares you for the feeling of standing in the North Atlantic wind at 72, with knees worn out by 40 years of nursing. I stood there, hugging myself, and for the first time wondered, what have I just done? A young woman passed by, saw me struggling, and stopped. "You okay?" she asked in English, with an Icelandic accent. I'm not used to the wind," I admitted. She laughed. "No one is, not even us," then pointed toward the city center. "The bus stop is there. Number 14 goes downtown. Are you a tourist?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe I'm moving here." Her eyes lit up. "Ah. Welcome. Iceland is a very good place for new beginnings." She waved and went on. "A good place for new beginnings. I hope she's right." Bus number 14 took me into central Reykjavík. I sat by the window, looking out like a child. Everything was different. Houses painted red, blue, yellow, green, popping against a gray sky. Not like Seattle's endless gray-green. Here it was color, bold, unapologetic. The streets were unbelievably clean. No trash, no stench, just cold, clear air, salty with the sea and earthy with volcanic soil. I got off at Hallgrímskirkja, the big white church I'd seen in photos. It was taller than I expected, like a spaceship reaching for the sky. I stood at the foot of the steps, looking up. For the first time in weeks, I felt small in the pleasant sense. Not unimportant, just part of something larger than the pain I was carrying, larger than everything I'd left behind. "Beautiful, isn't it?" I started. A man stood beside me, around 60, silver beard, wearing a traditional Icelandic sweater. "Very beautiful," I said. "First time in Reykjavík?" "First time going anywhere," I admitted. "Outside Seattle." "Ah, Seattle. I was there once. Lots of rain." He chuckled. "Like Iceland, but warmer." "Are you Icelandic?" "Yes. Born here, lived here 70 years. He looked at me. "Are you visiting?" I hesitated, then remembered I was practicing telling the truth to strangers. "I'm running away." He nodded, as if that were perfectly ordinary. Many people come to Iceland to run, from work, from relationships, from themselves. He pointed toward the distant mountains. "Iceland suits that. We have space, silence, wind to blow the old things clean." "I hope so," I whispered. "I'm Jon," he said. "Juliana."
Welcome to Iceland, Juliana, the land of fire and ice, and of new beginnings. At 2 p.m, I met Einar Sigurdsson at an office near the harbor. He was about 50, tall, fair-haired, suit without a tie. The window looked straight out over the silver-gray sea, waves breaking on black rocks. "Mrs. Reed," he shook my hand firmly. "Very nice to meet you. Please, have a seat." We sat with Icelandic coffee. Strong, bitter, perfect. "So," Einar opened his laptop, "you're considering long-term residence in Iceland. Tell me about your situation." For half an hour, I laid out the finances: pension, savings, insurance, the Seattle apartment about to be sold, the amount I planned to recover from Piper's house. Einar took notes, nodded, asked questions now and then. "With this pension and savings," he concluded, "you can live comfortably in Iceland. Not lavishly, but well. We have a very solid healthcare program for foreign retirees. Cost of living is a bit higher than Seattle, but quality of life—" He paused a beat. "Different. Many say better, different how? Less stress. Slower pace. Here we have a saying, theta reddest, everything will work out. Less rushing, less worry, just living." The idea of just living felt foreign. I had worried every day for 45 years. "You can also invest," Einar continued. "Icelandic funds are stable. In 5 years, you could double your assets if you choose well." Double. How many times in my life had I had that chance, only to pour it into Piper's dreams? Einar closed the laptop, his tone serious. "I need you to be candid. What are you running from? Legal issues? Debt? I have to know." I drew a breath. "No debt, no legal trouble. I'm running from a toxic family. Children?" I nodded. His face softened. "I understand." Many clients like that. People who gave everything, then were treated like an ATM? Exactly. "You're doing the right thing by leaving," he said with a small smile. "Iceland is a good place to heal. We don't ask too many questions. We welcome." When I left the office an hour later, arms full of paperwork on visas, housing, health care, for the first time I felt this could actually work. I could start over. That evening, I walked around Reykjavík. The city is small, only about 130,000 people. After Seattle, it felt like a town. I drifted past shops, restaurants, cafes. People glanced at me, an older American woman alone, but no one stared. No one made me feel unsafe. Around 6, I was hungry. A small place near the harbor had a window table open. The menu was in Icelandic. I didn't understand a word. A short-haired server with dyed blue hair saw my confusion. "English menu?" "Yes, please." The new menu landed. Prices were steep. Everything here is pricier. But I remembered. I had the $20,000 I'd reclaimed. I had my pension. For the first time in decades, I didn't need to count every penny. "I'll have the salmon," I said, "and a glass of white wine." The wine came. The salmon was perfectly grilled with potatoes and vegetables. I ate slowly, looking out at the sea. No one knew I was here. No one was waiting for me anywhere. No one needed me. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a failure. It felt like freedom. At 8, I went back to the hotel, tired in a pleasant way, tired from walking, from exploring. I showered hot, put on pajamas, climbed into bed. The phone buzzed. A familiar number, Harold Stein. I hesitated, then answered. "Harold?" "Jules." "Thanks for picking up. Where on earth are you?" "Iceland." "Iceland?" He laughed in surprise. "Well, you weren't kidding about disappearing." "I can't be in Seattle, Harold. I can't be near Piper." "I understand." His voice turned sober again. "Jules, I'm calling because Piper reached out. My heart dropped. And? She wants to contest the changes. Claims coercion, diminished capacity, just as we predicted. Can she do that? She can try. We've prepared. Recordings proving you were of sound mind, the detailed plan, the orderly departure. No panic. Frankly, she doesn't have a case. I exhaled. Thank you. And the house. They've hired a lawyer, trying to argue you gifted the house, that the co-signature was merely formal. Anger rose sharp. I'm a real co-signer. I covered 8 months when they defaulted. How is that formal? Exactly. I'm not concerned. But Jules, this will be tense. Could take months. Are you sure you'll see it through? I closed my eyes, pictured Emma and Liam's room, the backyard where he kicked a ball. Then remembered Piper's sentence. The best gift would be if you died. I'm sure, I said. Good. I'll handle the legal side. You handle living your life. After I hung up, I lay still listening to the Icelandic wind whip against the window. Piper was fighting, of course. I'd pulled away the financial life raft. She was trying to haul it back. But this time, I wouldn't yield. This time, I would stand firm. The days that followed weren't as easy as I'd imagined. Friday, I went to open a bank account to rent an apartment. The clerk said I lacked documents, Icelandic ID number, proof of address, residence permit. But I'm retired. I don't need to work, I explained. Even so, you still need a residence visa, she said. The process takes 3 to 6 months. 6 months. I had no apartment yet, just a hotel room paid nightly, $120 a night. I did the math. 6 months is $22,000, nearly all my available cash. Panic began to hum. Saturday, I went to the pharmacy for blood pressure meds. The pharmacist said I needed a prescription from an Icelandic doctor. But I have a Seattle prescription. It's not valid here. You need to see a doctor. Earliest appointment, 3 weeks. I had enough pills for 2. Sunday, I went to the supermarket. Labels in Icelandic, money in kronur, lots of things I didn't know how to cook. I bought bread, cheese, apples, simple things. At the register, my credit card wouldn't swipe. Tried 3 times. Error. I used the cash I'd exchanged at the airport. Paid, hands still shaking. Back at the hotel, I called the card company. We flagged transactions in Iceland as potential fraud. That's me. I'm in Iceland. We'll restore access. Next time, please notify us before international travel. I didn't say, I'm not traveling. I live here. But suddenly, that didn't sound as certain as I'd thought. If it feels like everything is starting to slip, that's exactly what the first week in a strange land feels like. Paperwork, key cards, medications, money, each tiny thing stacking into a mountain. The question is, do I turn back or learn to climb? I sat on the hotel bed, eating bread and cheese, staring into Iceland's darkness. Only 6 o'clock, and as black as midnight. Winter was coming. The little daylight would shrink further, and I would be here alone, in the dark, in the cold, in a country whose language I didn't speak, whose systems I didn't know, with no friends. What have I done? I thought about the Seattle apartment, small but warm, familiar. Nora next door, Pike Place below, the sounds I knew by heart. I thought of Emma and Liam, the piano recital I'd missed, the soccer game I'd never see. I thought of Piper, though I tried not to, the child I bore, raised, loved. Was I overreacting? Should I have stayed, tried to fix it? The phone buzzed. Unknown number, Seattle area code. I answered, without knowing why. Mom? Mark's voice. Is this Juliana? I stayed silent. Juliana, please listen to me. I know you're angry. Piper said terrible things, but the kids need you. They don't understand. Emma cries every night. Liam won't eat. They think you're dead. that stabbed straight through. Didn't Piper tell them the truth? I heard myself ask. She doesn't know what to say. How do you explain? He hesitated. Please come back. We can negotiate about the house, the money, everything. The kids need their grandmother. I closed my eyes, saw their faces. They'll always have their grandmother, I said softly, but their grandmother doesn't have herself anymore. I'm trying to find her in Iceland? You're 72. You don't know anyone there. What if you get sick, you fall, Then I'll take care of myself, I replied, my voice steadier than my feelings. For the first time in 45 years, I'll take care of my own business. But it isn't fair to Emma and Liam. Do you know what isn't fair, Mark? I cut in. Raising a child to believe a mother's love is infinite, that she can treat me like garbage and I'll still be there. That isn't fair to me. I know. Piper was wrong. She's trying to change. She's in therapy and... I let out a bitter laugh. Now she goes to therapy, after losing my money. Silence on the line. I'm sorry, Mark said at last. That sounds awful. But Juliana, there's still time to fix this. You can still come back. No, I said very gently. I can't. Because if I go back, I will die there. Not my body, but everything else left of me. I hung up. And then I cried. I cried for Emma, for Liam, for their innocence, for the recitals, the games missed. I cried for Piper, the child I once knew, once loved, now a stranger. I cried for myself, the woman who lost herself by loving too much. I cried for the loneliness in Iceland, the wind, the darkness, the strange language, the strange food, the strange systems. I cried until I was wrung out, chest aching, throat raw, head pounding. Then I lay still in the dark, alone, waiting for regret to whisper, "Go back. Surrender. It's too hard." But it didn't come. Something else arrived. A small voice, mine and not mine, stronger, clearer. Hard doesn't mean wrong. Lonely doesn't mean failure. Pain doesn't mean you're dying. It means you're living. For the first time in 45 years, you're living. I sat up, wiped my face, stood, walked to the window, looked down at the strange city with its strange pinprick lights, the unending wind, the sky black as ink. "All right," I whispered. "All right, I can do this." And maybe for the first time I believed it. On Tuesday morning, I saw a flyer in the hotel lobby. Senior hiking group. English speakers welcome. Meeting on Thursday. Mount Esja. Free shuttle from the city center. I stood staring at the flyer for 10 minutes. My knees still hurt. I was 72. I hadn't gone on a hike. So long I couldn't remember the last time. But I was also lonely to the point of aching. I took out my phone and snapped a photo of the flyer. On Thursday, I went to the pickup point at 8 in the morning. 8 people were already there, older, all of them looking like they knew exactly what they were doing. I almost turned back. Then a woman smiled at me. "First time?" I nodded. "Me too." Last week she held out a hand. "Ingrid." German. "Been here 2 years, Juliana." American. "Been here 10 days. Ingrid laughed. "Ah! Brand new. Welcome to Iceland, and welcome to the Misfits." The Misfits? That's what we call ourselves. Older folks who left home to escape toxic families. She said it so matter-of-factly, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Half the group has your story. Children who emotionally exploit you. Eventually we say, enough. Something in my chest loosened. My daughter said the best birthday gift would be, if I died. Ingrid didn't flinch, didn't freeze. She just nodded. My son said I owe him for giving birth to him, that every euro I earned should belong to him. She looked out the bus window. I stayed in Germany 5 more years, trying to please him. Then I woke up. And came to Iceland? Came to Iceland. People say this place fits new beginnings. She looked back at me. Is it hard? Awful, I admitted. I don't know the language. I don't understand the system. I don't have friends. I'm in a hotel because I can't rent without a residence permit. And the permit takes 6 months and... Inhale, exhale, Ingrid said gently. Breathe. We all went through it. The first 6 months are hell. But then, she smiled, then it gets better. We walked for over 3 hours. Not a conquering the peak hike, just real walking. But Iceland's air, the wind, and the mountain's rim cutting into the gray sky made me feel alive, in a way I had long forgotten. At lunch, we sat on a rock, looking toward Reykjavík in the distance, unwrapped our sandwiches. Everyone told their stories. Klaus, 70, Austrian. My daughter took all my savings to invest in her husband's startup. The company went bankrupt. She said it was my fault for not giving enough. At 70, I had nothing. I came here, started over Margaret, 68, Australian. My son moved back in when he was 42, said it was temporary, 5 years, didn't pay rent, yelled at me when I asked for help. One day I realized, it's my house. I sold it, took the money, left Yuki, 75, Japanese. All my life I took care of everyone. My husband when he was sick, my parents, my in-laws, my grandchild. 50 years, not one day for myself. When they passed, my children still wanted me to serve. At 72, I said no. They cut me off. I came here. The stories differed, but the melody was the same. Give everything, be treated badly, then leave. Do any of you regret it? I asked. They looked at one another. Then Klaus said, I miss my granddaughter every day. But regret leaving? Never. Margaret added, the only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. If you've come this far with me, you're probably waiting to see, do I soften when Piper calls, or do I keep walking straight ahead? Keep your breath steady. The next part is when the past knocks, and I have to choose how to answer. That night, an unknown number called. I didn't pick up. A voicemail played. Mom, I know you blocked me. I'm using Lisa's phone. Please, just listen. Piper's voice trembled. I'm in counseling. The therapist says I have a sense of entitlement and lack empathy. They say I've been emotionally abusing you for years without realizing it. Silence. A sob. I didn't know, Mom. I swear I didn't. I just thought, moms are supposed to give, to sacrifice. I never stopped to think how much it weighed on you. She panted. The lawyer says we're going to lose the house. The bank's about to foreclose. Mark can't find a job that pays enough. We're about to move into an apartment. It's small, Mom. 2 bedrooms for 4 people. The kids will have to share. A part of me tightened. I saw Emma and Liam in that cramped room, but another part, bigger, clearer, thought, good. They need to learn to live within their means. I'm not calling to ask for money, Piper went on. I know you won't give it. I just want to say, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. I love you. I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to show it without demanding everything from you. She paused. I heard the kids in the background, Emma asking something, Liam grumbling. I have to go. But Mom, if you hear this, I understand if you don't forgive me. I understand if you don't come back. I just want you to know I'm trying to change. For the kids, so they don't grow up and treat me like I treated you. The message ended. I sat in the dark hotel room, the phone in my hand. What did I feel? Exactly. Not gloating, not hollow moral victory, but not regret either. I had done the right thing, and maybe, in some small corner, there was hope that maybe Piper would change. I wouldn't be there to see it. Not now. Maybe never. Because I had to choose. Save my daughter or save myself. And for the first time in 45 years, I chose me. In the 3rd week, I signed up for Icelandic classes for immigrants, 2 evenings a week at the community center. Our teacher, Sigrid, about 40, with a patient smile, said on the first day, "Icelandic is the hardest language you'll ever learn. 4 cases, irregular verbs, unpredictable pronunciation. You will want to quit," she smiled, "but every word you learn is a new piece of home." So let's begin. First session. Góðan daginn, good morning. Takk fyrir, thank you. Eg heiti Juliana, my name is Juliana. I sat with 11 others from Poland, the Philippines, Syria, Nigeria. We all stumbled through each strange sound. And for the first time in weeks, I laughed because it was ridiculous. We sounded ridiculous, but we were trying. We were building something. In the 4th week, Harold emailed, "Jules, update on the house. Piper's lawyer argues you implicitly gifted when you co-signed and that you waived recovery by repeatedly bailing them out. There are a few Washington precedents. I don't think they'll win, but it'll get more complicated. Could take 6 to 12 months. If we lose, you won't recover the $150,000. Do you want to continue? There's still time to withdraw." I read the email at a cafe near my new place. A small studio, month to month, $2,200 per month, $150,000, my entire retirement. If I let Piper keep the house, I lose it forever. If I sue and lose, I burn thousands more on legal fees. I looked out toward Reykjavík's harbor. Fishing boats bobbed, mountains in the distance. Icelanders walked past, unfazed by the cold wind. I thought of Piper in a 2-bedroom apartment, struggling and learning. I thought of Emma and Liam, losing their familiar home. Then I thought of me, 40 years as a nurse, every shift, every overtime hour, every penny saved. $150,000 wasn't just money. It was the future I had once given up. I replied to Harold, "Continue. I want back what's mine." Ingrid invited me. Support group for older parents who've been abused. Every Tuesday. You should come. I didn't want to. It sounded like a loop of pain, but I went. Because Ingrid was my friend now, and because a part of me still carried guilt, as if leaving were somehow wrong. We met in a church basement, 10 people, all older, all with stories like mine. The therapist, Anna, opened. "Who wants to share this week?" A man around 75 raised his hand. "I got an email from my son. First time in 2 years. He says he forgives me." "Forgives you?" Anna's voice softened. "Yes, for cutting off financial support. He says he understands I need boundaries and he accepts it." He gave a bitter smile. "I feel angry." "He forgives me?" I gave him 50,000 euros. He burned it on gambling. Now he's the victim? Heads nodded. They knew this pattern. "That's DARVO, Anna explained. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. The abuser turns themselves into the victim, makes you feel like you're the one at fault. So what do? Do what feels right to you. Reply or don't, it's your choice. Remember, you don't owe him forgiveness, and you certainly don't need his." After the session, 5 of us went for coffee. Petra, Dutch, asked, "And you, Juliana?" I told them. Everything. The birthday, the letter, Iceland, the lawsuit over the house. They were quiet for a moment. Then Petra said, "Do you know what the best part of your story is?" "What?" "You left. Many of us stayed too long. Let it grind us down to nothing, but you said, Enough. But I still feel guilty, I admitted. Every day. For the kids. For guilt is the last inheritance abusers leave behind, Georg, German, said. Even when you escape, their voice stays in your head, calling you selfish, bad, wrong. So does it go away? It doesn't, Ingrid said gently. It gets smaller. You learn to live with it. And there are days, good days, when you don't hear it at all. 2 months into Iceland, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Seattle number, unknown. I almost didn't answer. But 2 a.m., here is 6 p.m. Seattle. Not an emergency, just someone determined. I picked up. Grandma? Emma's voice crying. Grandma Juliana? My heart stopped. Emma? Sweetheart, what is it? I borrowed Aunt Lisa's phone. Mom doesn't know I'm calling. I miss you. Those words cut straight through me. I miss you too, sweetheart. Every day. Why did you leave? Emma choked. Did I do something wrong? Liam says it's because we're bad, too loud. You got tired. No! I burst out, tears spilling. Never because of you. Not because of you. I love you and Liam more than anything. Then why? How do you explain to a 12-year-old? How do you say, I left because your mother wore me down to nothing? Sometimes, I said slowly, adults need a place to heal, like when you're sick and need rest. I was hurt. I had to go far away to get better, but I need you. I know. And that's the hardest part. But listen, Emma, if I stayed, I wouldn't be the grandma you need. I'd be empty, broken. I have to go, to remember how to be myself. Silence, a shaky inhale. Do you love my mom? That question, the one I'd asked myself hundreds of times. I love your mom, I said at last. But love doesn't mean letting someone hurt you. Love also means knowing when to leave. Will you come back? I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know. Can I write you letters? That made me cry harder. Yes, I'd love that I read her my address in Iceland. We talked 10 more minutes about school, about piano, about friends. When I hung up, I lay in the dark and cried myself empty. But this time, they weren't only tears of sadness. They were tears for the cord that still exists. Emma doesn't hate me. She misses me. And maybe one day, when she's old enough, she will understand. Saturday morning, I received an envelope from Seattle. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Childlike, innocent, careful, and slightly slanted. My name was written in green pencil. Grandma Juliana Reed. I sat down at the kitchen table in my tiny studio before opening it. My hands were shaking. Inside were 4 lined sheets. Dear Grandma Juliana, it's me, Emma. I'm sorry it took me so long to write. I didn't know what to say. Mom says you need space, but I thought maybe you just don't want to be with us anymore. But after talking to you on the phone, I heard you were sad. Not angry, just sad. And I think maybe Mom didn't tell us the whole truth. I paused to wipe my tears. You know what? We moved. The new place is much smaller. Liam and I have to share a room. At first I hated it, but now it's kind of okay. We talk at night, and sometimes that's nice. Mom is different. She cries a lot. She goes to a doctor to talk about feelings. She told us she treated you badly, and now she's learning to be better. I don't understand everything, but she's trying. Dad has a new job. It doesn't pay as much as the old one, but he says at least it's a job. He gets up early and comes home tired. He's trying, too. I miss you, Grandma Juliana. I miss your grilled cheese sandwiches. I miss how you read to me. I even miss your not very good singing voice. I laughed through my tears. I really do sing badly. I'm learning a new piece on the piano. Claire de Lune. It's hard, but my teacher says I'm getting better. I want to play it for you someday, if you want. Liam says to tell you he misses you too. He's not good at writing letters, so I'm writing for both of us. He says he loves you, and he's sorry if we made you sad. You're not sad because of us, are you? You said that on the phone, but I want to be sure. Please write back. I want to know what Iceland is like. Is there snow there? Are there polar bears? Mom says there aren't, but I still want to ask you. Love you so much, Emma and Liam. At the bottom was a drawing. 2 stick figure kids, Emma and Liam holding hands with a stick figure woman, me. Above was a big heart. I pressed the letter to my chest and cried. Not for loss, but for the bond. Because love isn't always enough, but it still matters. Because my grandchildren still love me. And maybe, one day, they will understand. I spent the whole afternoon writing back, 4 pages, explaining Iceland in language a 12-year-old could understand. Dear Emma and Liam, thank you for writing. Your letter made me cry. Happy tears. You didn't make me sad. Never. I didn't leave because of you. I left because I needed to relearn how to be myself. Sometimes adults forget who they are besides being a mom, a grandma, a wife. I had forgotten. I needed a faraway place to remember. Iceland is beautiful. There are mountains, waterfalls, a wide sky. No polar bears. Your mom is right. But there are horses. Small, very cute Icelandic horses. I haven't ridden one, but I petted one. It was very soft. People are kind. They speak the language I'm learning. Icelandic. It's so hard. I trip over every word like you did when you first learned to read. But I'm getting better. I have new friends. Ingrid, Klaus, Margaret, and Yuki. We go hiking every week. My knees still hurt, but the fresh air makes everything easier. I want to hear Emma play Claire de Lune. It's one of my favorites. Maybe one day when you're older, you'll visit. I'll show you the mountains and the sea and teach you to say Eg elska ykkur. That means I love you in Icelandic. I'm proud of your mom for going to counseling. Change is hard, but it means she's trying. That's the most important thing. Take care of each other. Be patient with your parents. They're learning to live in a new way, just like I am. And remember, I love you to the moon and back. Distance can't change that. Love you forever, Grandma P.S. I'm enclosing a photo of me in Iceland so you can see that I'm smiling. I printed the photo Ingrid took last week. Me standing in front of Hallgrímskirkja, wind tossing my hair, wearing a thick sweater and truly smiling. The person in the photo was no longer who I used to be, stronger, freer, more alive. An email from Harold arrived at 3 a.m. Iceland time, 7 p.m. in Seattle. Jules, we won. I read those 2 words 5 times before they sank in. The judge ruled that co-signing was not an implied gift. You retain full rights to reclaim your investment when the primary borrower defaults. The house will be sold. After costs and the remaining mortgage, you will receive $127,000. Not the $150,000 you invested, but substantial. Funds will hit your account within 6 weeks. Piper has 30 days to vacate. Her lawyer has filed an appeal, but the chance of success is very low. Congratulations, Jules. You stood firm. And you won. I sat in the dark apartment, read the email, and felt... what? Not joy. Not satisfaction. Just relief. Exhaustion. And a sense of a door closing. $127,000. Not enough to replace what I've lost, but enough to start over. Enough to know my boundaries mean something. Enough to prove I deserve better treatment. If this is the part where you're waiting for a hug, a reunion, slow down a beat. When the court is done, it's the heart that needs time. And the past, like an old habit, will make one last call. 3 days later, my phone buzzed, a number that had been blocked for a long time. But I knew, somehow I knew, this would be the last time. I picked up. "Mom." Piper's voice, small and cracked. "Are you there?" "You have 5 minutes," I said calmly. We have to leave the house. The judge said 2 more weeks. I know. You could stop it. Tell the lawyer you changed your mind." "I won't." Silence. Then very softly, "I know." A few shaky breaths. "I'm not calling to ask you to change your mind. I'm calling to say, I get it now. Finally, I understand what I did to you." I waited. "The counselor made me list everything you gave me. Every dollar, every hour, every sacrifice." Then she asked, "Did you ever say thank you? Did you ever ask if your mother could bear it? Did you ever see her as a person with needs of her own?" Piper's voice broke open. And I realized, no, I saw you as a resource, not a person. When you stopped giving, I got angry, as if you owed me. My tears ran, silent and scalding. I said the best gift would be if you died. Do you know? Every night since then, I've wished I could take it back. I would do anything to take it back. "But you can't," I said quietly. "I can't, and I have to live with that." A pause. "Do you forgive me?" The question I'd prepared for, in case she ever asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday. But not now. The wound is still deep. I understand. But Piper, I hope you become a better person. For Emma and Liam. They need a mother who knows how to love without taking everything. A mother who knows what boundaries are. I'm trying. Truly. Good."
We were silent. I heard Piper's soft crying. "When will you come back to Seattle?" "I won't. Iceland is my home now. And the kids, they miss you. And I miss them. We'll write letters. Maybe when they're older they'll visit. But you and I, Piper, right now we can't have a relationship. It's not safe for me." The words "not safe" hung between us. "I understand," Piper whispered. "And I'm sorry. For everything. If I could change, but you can't. So we have to live with the choices we made. Are you happy in Iceland?" I looked out at the harbor. Boats, mountains, a sky too wide to measure. "I'm learning how to be happy," I said. "For the first time in decades, I'm living for myself. And yes, that makes me happy. I'm glad for you. Truly, thank you." "Goodbye, Mom." "Goodbye, Piper." I hung up. This time, not with anger or pain, but with acceptance. This is the end of a chapter, not a happy ending, not a reconciliation, just an ending. And that is enough. I sat on the balcony of my apartment, not a studio anymore, but a pretty one-bedroom near the harbor, with a cup of coffee and a wool scarf over my shoulders. It's been a year since I came to Iceland, a year since I left Seattle, a year since I chose myself. Life now. I volunteer at the University Hospital of Iceland 3 days a week, not as a nurse anymore, just helping at reception, interpreting for English speakers. It gives me purpose without draining me. I'm continuing Icelandic classes. I'm not fluent yet, but I can shop, order food, ask for directions, enough to feel less like an outsider. Every Thursday, I hike with the group. We've become family, the misfits, as Ingrid says, bound not by blood, but by understanding. I write to Emma and Liam every 2 weeks. They write back. Emma sends piano recordings. Liam sends drawings. Our bond is different, fragile, careful, but still there. And Piper? We don't talk. There was one email she sent, a photo of letters I wrote to her 30 years ago when she was in college. Subject line, "I forgot you used to write these things." I'm sorry I forgot I didn't reply, but I saved it.
Maybe one day we'll find a way to talk. Not now. For now, I'm learning to love my daughter from afar, to love my grandchildren from afar, to love the life I left without letting it ruin the life I'm building. This morning, I stood before the mirror. 73. More silver in my hair, deeper wrinkles. But my eyes, different. No longer tired, no longer empty. They're alive. "Hello," I whispered to my reflection. "You okay?" And for the first time in 45 years, the answer was, okay. Not perfect, not painless, but okay. If I could go back and speak to 50-year-old Juliana, the woman taking out a second mortgage to pay Piper's tuition, I would say, love does not mean sacrificing everything. Boundaries do not mean you don't love. Saying no doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you a wise one. I would say, your children may get angry, may call you selfish, but your job is not to make them happy by destroying yourself. Your job is to teach them that everyone has limits, even you. And I would say, it is never too late to start over. 72 isn't too old. 75 isn't either. As long as you're breathing, you can choose yourself. Today I received an email from a woman named Karen in Canada. She read my story, Ingrid shared it on a support forum, and wrote, "I'm 68. My son lives in the basement. He's 40. He doesn't pay rent. He yells at me. But he's my son. How can I kick him out?" I replied, "You can, because you deserve a life without fear in your own home. Because love doesn't mean enduring abuse. Because a good mother isn't one who never says no. It's one who knows when to say it. It will be hard. It will hurt. Your son will be angry. But you know what? You'll survive. And maybe, for the first time in decades, you'll be able to breathe." Now, as I sit on the balcony looking out over Reykjavík, I think of all the mothers like me, those who gave too much, lost themselves in the love for their children. I want to tell them, you are not selfish for wanting a life of your own. You are not bad for setting boundaries. You are not a failure for leaving. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, for your child, is to say, no more. Then, even afraid, even hurting, even guilty, you walk away. You choose yourself, because no one else will do that for you. 73. A mother who is no longer a mother in the old way. A grandmother who loves at a distance. A woman learning to live for herself. And for the first time in my life, I'm not apologizing for it. I once wished to disappear, and I did. But in that disappearance, I found what I didn't know I had lost, myself. I am Juliana Reed, 73, a mother who once disappeared and a woman who has just found herself again. If this journey touches you, remember that no one is late to their own life. Whether in Seattle's endless rain or in the North Atlantic wind like me, the door to a new life is always open when you dare to push it. Thank you for walking with me to the end of the story, and I hope that along the way you breathed a little deeper, stood a little straighter, and dared to say no more when needed. I'll keep sharing about my days in Reykjavík, the tongue-twisting Icelandic classes, the first snowfall hike, and Emma's next letter. If you want to come along, hit subscribe to catch new episodes each week, tap the bell to get notified as soon as they go live, and leave a comment. What boundary will you set for yourself this week? See you again, where the wind still blows hard, but my heart is calmer.